Hello, everybody. My name is Ishmael. I'm a master's and bachelor in theology. In this, it's the place where I'm going to be studying with you to every quarter a different topic, a series. And this series in this quarter is about the book of Ephesians that the Apostle Paul wrote to the Ephesians back then. So we'll be 14 topics and 14 titles that we are going to go through and then understand more about this book. And basically, this book is going to help us to understand how to be a followers of Jesus in trying times. Unlike those days, today we also face tribulations, problems, political ideologies, and how we can be Christians and share God's love in this society. So basically, we are going to have many things to learn from this epistle. And also, our devotion to Christ impacts how one acts and speaks. So in our life, everything that surrounds us and everything that we do, the books we read, the music we listen, the movies we watch, the friends we have, everything will impact our life and our thoughts and everything that is around us. So in this epistle, in the book of Ephesians, we're going to see that the Apostle Paul centralized his message in the God's salvation plan and Jesus Christ. The first lesson, it's Paul in the Ephesians, in the city, actually the Ephesus was a most beautiful and one of the most important cities in Roman Empire, and we are going to know and understand why. So the first verse is Ephesians chapter 1, verse 9 and 10 that says, making known to us the mystery of his will according to his purpose, which he set forth in Christ as a plan for the fullness of time to unite all things in him, things in heaven and things on earth. Everything will be united in Christ. This world talks about unity, and unity it's important, but not every unit and not for whatever reason. We can be united for something that's evil. It's not good. What the Apostle Paul is talking about here is to be united in Christ, united in the truth, united in what it's good, in God's will. And this, he will help us to understand why. So basically, Paul was an evangelist, and Ephesus was one of the cities that he was trying to plant a church and to make the Christianity to grow. But he faced many challenges. And one of the challenges was that in that city, the temple for Artemis, the supreme god in that city, was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. So basically, that temple was used for touristic and economic purpose. So people from everywhere would come to know that beautiful beauty, and also there were many people working and shaping statues and many pagan books to sell to the crowds, and they would make heaps of profits. But when the Apostle Paul was saying that Artemis is not God, the real God is Jesus Christ, the Apostle Paul was in a kind of way putting down Artemis, and in other words, he was destroying that business. And of course, the whole city and the people that were involved in that business were not happy because they didn't want to waste and lose money. What they did, they kicked out Paul of that city. This is what happened. So there was a problem, a riot in the amphitheater, and Paul was kicked out of the city. But the preaching of the Apostle Paul, it was in his 3rd missionary trip. He, in the intervening years since Paul's departure, the Christian movement in Ephesus had grown, and the number of house churches had multiplied. Why? Because the praying for believers received Christ-focused wisdom, the Christ was exalted, and also he preached the Christ for the Gentiles. And all those seeds that he left in the city when he was kicked out of Ephesus started growing, and the church and the believers in Christ started growing in the city. Nowadays, Artemis does not exist anymore. The God that Paul was preaching is still alive today, Jesus Christ. Artemis is gone, Jesus is still on. So, basically here, the Apostle Paul made himself a prisoner, made himself from coming from a high position in society to become a very low position. But from this low position, God could make him a greater disciple and preacher of the good news. And we have no doubt that the Apostle Paul, with the other apostles, preached the gospel for that whole generation, which was a huge achievement and a miracle back then. And his epistle to the Ephesians was Christ's saturated letter. Why? Because the salvation plan was centered in him, and the church was also part of it, the ecclesia. And the principal strategy he uses, and the Apostle Paul uses, is to talk about the church, and he does so using vivid metaphors, 4 metaphors. The first one, church as a body, church as a building or temple, church as a bride, and church as an army. You can tell me, but Ishmael, the church does not save us. You are correct. Church does not save us. But who saves us wants us to be part of his church. It's really important to go to the church. It's really important to bring our family to the church, because even if I was an atheist, it would be better to follow the Christianity values. Why, Ishmael? Because if I follow the Christianity values, I would be in an advanced position comparing to the whole society. I won't commit adultery. In other words, I would have a happy family, a wife, a husband, kids, which would give me really balanced emotional. And the emotional, it's really important to be successful in life, to create good relationships, because it doesn't matter how good we are, but if you're not able to develop good relationship with people we want success in life, when we want to be successful in life, because we need to do our part, but the other people also need to help us during in our journey, in our professional journey, in order to grow in our career. So everything it's related to relationships, and wonderful and a very good family gives us this good emotional balance to live and work and do our best. Also, following God's principle will avoid us to get in trouble, because we won't take money from someone. We look after ourselves, our health. We will try to good, honest, and good people in society. So even though for an atheist person would be better to follow the Christianity. Some new believers, under fresh conviction over the sovereignty of Jesus, throw their expensive magic manuals into flames. You know that very expensive pagan books, the pagan statues, they would take all of those things once they accept Jesus, and they will throw all in the rubbish. And that paganism will be putting down back then as they were accepting Jesus Christ. Paul was kicked out. The Christianity grew a lot in that city. It was growing a lot back then. Also, Artemis does not exist anymore, but Christ is still alive. See you for next week in our second lesson.